All right, everyone, I'm finally back from my trip, and a lot has happened, but also a lot hasn't happened. And we are going to be talking about a lot of that. We're going to be diving deep on a few things specifically regarding what happened around Ripple and what it really means for the future for even XRP and also Ripple themselves. So with that being said, welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. And also, if you guys are not in the free Discord, you guys need to be joining the free Discord as soon as you possibly can to get access to a ton of additional free information and content. And also, don't forget to sign up for the new exchange that I did just recently start utilizing, which is also down in the description below. Now, with all of that in mind, let's address a few things that have happened over the last couple weeks since I have been gone. Number one, price action. Guys, I left around the beginning of August, and this has been the 1 month in terms of Bitcoin. Not much has changed. This is also XRP. Again, not much has changed. So, did I really miss much when it comes to price action? Not really. And ultimately, we are still waiting for Bitcoin to finally decide what it wants to do. The number one thing we are waiting for is still a break over the March high. Until that happens, we don't really care about price action when it comes to Bitcoin. Every single time that we have gotten close to a big breakout, we reject on Bitcoin, which again, when it comes to XRP, we're really kind of determining XRP's price action off of what Bitcoin does because of how high Bitcoin dominance is. But outside of that, has much changed in the overall market? Not really. But when it comes to fundamentals or moves being made by Ripple and even moves around XRP, has a lot changed. 100%. Let's talk about that. So, number one, big shout to XRP drops for this. We have Ripple has updated these 18 partnerships on its homepage. Now we have Europe. These are all the big players tied to Ripple in Europe. We have Archix, we have Modular, Travelex, BBVA, BTech, Lemonway. We also even have DZ Bank, Israel as well. We have South America, Asia, Africa, India, the UAE, Australia, all around the world. Guys, Ripple is a global giant, regardless of if somebody wants to really kind of try to counter that. It's okay. You can try to, but let's just be real here. The facts are the fact that Ripple has expanded rapidly over the last couple of years while it has been in the lawsuit with the SEC, and they already have a foot through the door when it comes to that. And this kind of goes back to October and really kind of builds upon this post from XRP Drops. And I do remember this, where it was really kind of highlighting all of the amazing partnerships that Ripple does have. The work that's been put in by Ripple over the last couple years, regardless of the lawsuit or not, has been nothing short of extraordinary. But outside of this, let's also look at the dominance in the global span when it comes to Ripple's partnerships. We're not just talking about Ripple here. We're talking about the names tied to Ripple here. We have over here from Anderson on the first page of Ripple's homepage showing all partnerships. They chose to showcase and their respective headquarters, a piece of a global network built. And yes, this is exactly what this is, a global network, but focus specifically on the key areas that are being targeted. When I look at this, I more so look at BBVA, Lemonway, DZ Bank, Archix, Modular, and Travelex. Why? Well, all of these are centered around the UK. And we're going to come back to that here in a second. But also we have over here Standard Chartered, we have MoneyNet Int, and even Santander. We also have a few other big players here, like for an example, Bank of America. And the reason why this is important, this is like specifically the UK, is because of the FX market. Nearly half of the $7.5 trillion daily FX market or Forex transactions take place in London. This is why we look at that as one of the top FX hubs. And this is why we look at all of these partnerships that Ripple does have in the UK, which is also the number one reason why Ripple does have access to 90% of the FX market already covered, which is very significant. Now, we also have down here RippleNet Committee on Ripple homepage and 6 organizations they chose to showcase down below pick. In both cases, we find the highest concentration in Europe and especially in London. 2 of 6 RippleNet committee members and 3 of the partnerships in London alone. London is also the location we've seen most job openings for Ripple in the last few months, with over a third of current job openings being offered in London. Now, I also do personally believe that a lot of the DLT movements happening around, for example, adoption, even technically regulations. I know that, yes, Mika was the big first one in Europe. I still believe that the UK is going to be a big hub and potentially even a giant that really kind of becomes a reality through the adoption and utilization of DLT and digital assets. And the reason why I say that is because we kind of go back to Quant Network with Overledger. A lot of people forget the fact that Quant already is tied into the UK government. It's a big deal. And remember that Quant does have TC307 tied to it, which is the standardization of DLT, blockchain, and even the use cases tied to it. And it's all centered in the UK, which is why I do think that the UK really kind of has a big step forward ahead of almost every single other nation out there. So I do think that this is something to mention when it comes to Ripple really kind of becoming a big giant in the UK and London region. Now, outside of this, let's talk about a few things and let's address what just recently happened around Ripple. So we have IMF tokenization panel discussing banks and financial institutions currently tokenizing their assets on a blockchain. The switch is already happening. Listen closely. Now, I'm bringing this back up. This is going back to April that got posted by Smoke Dog. And the reason why I'm bringing this back up is because of what we recently heard around Ripple.
And what you're doing is we're putting together a process framework, a governance framework for banks to tokenize their asset on this network. For example, you can tokenize from money market fund to bonds, to equities, to deposits, and put that representation on the network and allow it to move between two parties. Today in Singapore, almost close to a dozen banks are already productionalizing their asset on the network. Standard Chartered Bank just announced, I think a few months back, they're tokenizing their trade receivables. UBS is tokenizing their money market fund. JPM is tokenizing their deposits. So you can see that switch is happening already. And from a market efficiency perspective, you are dramatically reducing the operational processes out of the system. So we feel that without going into the complex definition of what token is from a legal standpoint or from an academic standpoint, I look at it as pure tech delight, complete tech delight. You take that piece of asset, put it in the network, where you can mix two things, the value of the asset and ownership of the asset into a single piece of token. And if I can get the network governed properly, you can move the asset among ourselves without the need for people to reconcile between databases. That's what is happening in Singapore.
And so you see this as potentially transformative.
So there you guys have it. Now, when we really kind of hear these discussions, we hear what's happening behind the scenes. Yeah, almost every single major bank, every single major institution, they're moving in on tokenization. They want to utilize the best-in-class technology, the one that has been around the longest, the one that they can trust as well. And when we really look at that, yeah, Ripple and XRP are definitely at the forefront of that, especially when it comes to the XRP ledger, being the home for a lot of tokenization endeavors in recent times. And as we do hear what's going on, yeah, it seems like every single bank and institution is ready. They're prepared for what's about to happen. Now, remember, we don't get the mass utilization. We don't get the real major switch happening over to DLT and blockchain-based processes and systems until we have clarity. And this is what we recently got. We got a big update. This actually just got posted on the 20th from Crypto Law US, and this is regarding the SEC lawsuit. After almost 4 years and having to spend nearly $200 million, Ripple prevailed against the SEC's overreach. Hear more from their perspective from Ripple's own chief legal counsel, Stuart Alderati. Now check this out.
We were very happy to have received this ruling. It represents finality. It's a final judgment. We do view it as a win. And what the court did is the court continued to reject the overreach of the SEC. The SEC's suggestion that Ripple acted recklessly was rejected. The judge reminded the SEC that this case didn't involve any allegations of fraud, didn't involve any allegations of intentional wrongdoing. And in fact, there were no victims. No one.
And remember, right? No one suffered anything from this. This is a final judgment. A final judgment, which is a very big deal. It's basically the nail in the coffin for the SEC's argument against Ripple's case. So, is this done fully? Is it all put behind us? Not exactly, but the final judgment definitely is, a move in the right direction, which I personally believe is going to probably be the key that locks the door forever, and we can finally move on from this. Now, remember, once this does happen, Ripple and XRP does have 100% full clarity. XRP already does have clarity. Ripple, as a company itself, will have clarity. Now institutions can tap into Ripple. They can work with Ripple without having any sort of scrutinization tied to them. They don't have to worry. They don't have to be concerned. This is going to put everything into overdrive. This is a very big deal. This is especially huge if you are an XRP holder. Listen, I understand, a lot of people sit around in this space and say, well, why is XRP the same price today that it was, back in, for an example, 2020, or even back in 2018? Well, guess what? I hate to break it to you, but number one, you don't need to hold XRP. Number two, you can sell XRP whenever you want. You don't need to, hodl XRP forever. You don't even need to watch these videos. You don't even need to touch XRP. But also, number three, what has changed around this space since 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015? Adoption and legitimization of the actual overall use case. We're now starting to see the big players tokenize. We're now starting to see the big players look at the technology and say, yeah, there's viable use case potential here. We can utilize this and we can finally tap into the efficiencies that DLT and blockchain does have to offer. But they don't get there without clarity. Being shaken out now and pretty much leaving the XRP train at a time where we are so close, in my opinion, to clarity is a big mistake. It's a very big mistake. Now, outside of that, I want to go to this post here. And this is from Smoke Dog. He's building on top of his post from the 19th, where he said, many would be surprised to know that there are indeed crypto regulations in the US that allow banks to currently engage in crypto-related activities. We have many people speculate about crypto regulations in the US, questioning their existence, timeline, and what banks might be waiting for. However, with a little digging, you can find credible evidence, like the video below, confirming that the US credit unions and banks are currently able to engage in digital asset activities. And here we have the chairman of the National Credit Union Administration explaining that there are no barriers preventing banks and credit unions from participating in digital asset activities, as long as they comply with existing laws. The problem here is existing laws. They're not exactly clear, which does put a little bit of a concern on them to go all in. That's the obstacle, in my opinion, for a lot of these big players. But this is regulated crypto asset activities with US banks are on the way. Check it out.
That because I want there to be a seamless experience. I think one of the questions you're asking about what some of the questions are, many of the credit unions still want to know, do they have our imprimatur at NCUA to embrace fintech technology? Do they have our imprimatur to embrace blockchain, distributed ledger technology, and even engaging in digital assets? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. They have our imprimatur. We've not had to give a rulemaking because our statutes, our legislation and regulations They currently now allow them to engage in those activities, but as they would with any activity, do it prudently and pragmatically. Are you going through the appropriate due diligence? We as an agency, we were one of the few agencies that really did tell our regulated entities that you are more than welcome when it came to digital assets and blockchain. We gave them supervisory guidance telling them, look at it as they would with any third party. So we're looking at, are you doing the appropriate vetting, the vendor due diligence? Are you looking at a lot of the other things that you would do if you were really embarking upon any other relationship? And I know our peer regulators have taken a different stance where they're saying, well, we're not going to tell you can do it. You need to
ask us for
permission,
right.
and we will give you a letter saying we're not denying it. But that type of regulatory uncertainty and regulatory vacuum is what we're trying to prevent at the agency. So I think many of our regulated entities will say that we've been very forthright, been very forward, and I'm very proud that all 3 board members are so in unison and wanting to embrace the technology. I mean, I really had really great joy when I was able to get all of their support in creating the new office and moving forward with some of the other ideas with the new FinTech director position. So I think the one thing that I hope comes loudly and clearly from our conversation today is that we do not want to stand in your way, provided you're going through the appropriate due diligence as you would with any third-party vendor, as you would engage with any partnership. I think you need to measure the complexity, measure the risk as you would with any activity. And
now, the only issue with this is that we still have regulators going after, players that are tied to this space, which does still put a red flag on adopting and utilizing digital assets and the technology behind them in a very large way. We are still waiting on full clarity. Ripple seems as though they are almost at the finish line, and now would be the worst time to give up. I say that now because I don't want anyone looking back in a year or 2 years, and yes, that's me being, extremely, for like when we really look at this space, we don't know what's going to happen in the next week, month, 2 months. I'm just giving a little bit of a timeline stretch of 1 to 2 years, because I don't think that's going to take that long. But I don't want people to look back in the next couple weeks, months, and even technically years and say, wow, I made a big mistake letting go of my XRP at one of the most obvious times in history where we were so close. All I had to do was be a little bit more patient. And I really do think that all we have to do is be a little bit more patient here. I get it. We've been very patient for a very long time. I understand, guys, I'm in the same exact situation as you guys. We are just waiting. That's it. And it sucks, but hey, the waiting part of this space should 100% be appreciated for what it is and should not be taken for granted. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.